Hello and welcome to another episode of me painting again. Oh yeah, we're painting again. And here is my palette of colours and my little double wash thing of water. So I'll mention which colours I'm using as I go. If I remember, I'll put a list in the description. I'll try and say them. There we go. Titanium white. Burnt umber, cadmium red, ultramarine blue, sap green, burnt sienna, yellow ochre, and cadmium yellow, and that's my palette. So I'm making myself a sort of a lavendery colour with the blue and the cadmium red. So ultramarine blue, cadmium red, and titanium white. Just mixing them together. Now I've actually put the audio really low on the actual footage because there's been work going on next door. It's been really loud. There's concrete smashing all over the place. So I'm using the grey card, and I'm just wet my brush a little bit and go into the paint and start creating a bit of a design in the sky, get an angled kind of design to create a bit of interest. And plus I am using a bit of photo reference, a photo that I took when I was out walking, but it's a pretty bad photo. It's overexposed, you can't really see the sky, which is what happens a lot when you take pictures and you forget to mess around with it. Sometimes I take two photos, so one of the sky and then one of like the land, the trees and things, so I can use both together, put them in Photoshop or something and make a good photo out of it, but I forgot. So the sky is a bit made up, but that doesn't matter. You can do that. There are painters out there that refuse to paint what they see. They only paint what they design. And that's quite a good thing, isn't it? To be able to design everything. You still got to use some sort of remembering nature or what you've painted, I suppose, to be able to get to that level. Because people do that with people as well. When they do their painting, they create people in them. Realistic as well. Amazing. So I'm putting some white on my palette. More white. Need more white. When I'm doing a painting like this, I need a bit more light. I always tend to, I don't know why, I always want to make dark paintings. I've got a tendency to want to paint the dark side all the time, so I need to really push myself to do daytime ones as well as. So a bit of white and the blue, so we want to make a sky colour for the blue areas. So it's just white and then ultramarine blue. I haven't fully washed my brush, so there might be a bit of red in it, but I don't mind that, as long as it's mostly blue. So the paint kind of drags on the card. So what I tend to do is wet it a little bit and use it almost like watercolour, or let it drag like this, so you get a broken effect. Both work. See, I just wet it a little bit so then I can block it in a little bit better. The great benefit of acrylics, I find, is the fact that you can just get a piece of card out and get painting. It's a good thing, isn't it? The downside I find with acrylic paint is it just doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel like gouache does or like oil paints do. It feels so different. but I still like them. I used to dislike acrylics a while ago because they used to just dry on me. Well, that's because I would try and paint like an oil painter with acrylics, and I'd get frustrated, and it would lift off, and my brushes weren't working the way I wanted them to, so I used to blame the brushes. You know what it's like when you're a beginner. Everything's a problem apart from yourself. But the reality is, it was me. It was me that was the problem. So I'm trying to get the blue a bit bluer as it goes up and lighter towards the horizon. So I get more pigment, more acrylic paint on my brush for doing this area, and as I go up than I did in the lower part where it's a lot lighter. If you're wondering why I'm using grey card, why use grey? The reason I use it personally is because grey's a neutral. It's a neutral tone, and I hate using white. I just don't like using white. You can't see your darks and lights as well if you use white, so I always use something that's... I prefer using something that's toned. I can't say I always do it, because sometimes I'll just use white, and I'll just chuck as much paint on as possible to get it going quick. So, cadmium red and white, mixed in with some blue as well. So you can consider the blue as the cold and the red as the warm, and then if you want your clouds to be warm, get more red on it. If you want it to be cool, more blue on it. Using rocking motions to create a bit of action in the sky. And I've got to make a decision on how far that sky comes down. Now, the rules of art would tell you, don't have a horizon that's in the middle of the page. So I'm not, but I'm a little bit unsure about all rules of art, because it's good to know them, but you don't want the rules of art to control how you paint. And the reason I say that is when I found out about complementary colours, all I did was drawings of characters with wearing orange and blue. And I think I drew half a sketchbook of characters wearing orange and blue, and that was it. And because it looks so good because the orange and blue are complementary colours. Wow. But there's a bit of an issue there, because then you start thinking, oh well, orange and blue, well, I should do all my paintings using complementary colours. Green and red, I'll do everything green and red, and then everything orange and blue, and everything purple and yellow. Use all the complements. So look how I'm moulding the brush there. I'm turning it and just letting the paint drag off. I quite like using that turning the brush technique. It just adds a little bit of randomness into your paint. So I've got some yellow ochre and white. I put a bit of yellow ochre in because, and a bit of red there, because just titanium white is just too cold. So warm it up a little bit and start throwing in these little twisty turns of light in the sky. Now this sky kind of paints itself in a way. What I mean by that is every brush stroke I'm seeing what's happening and going with it. I think you have to have an element of going with the painting, because I've had many a time where I used to fight what happens, fight the pigments that I'm using, and you shouldn't. I think you should just go with the flow. Go with the flow. Be like water, my friend. So I've got a bit of water on the brush and I'm just blending this paint away a little bit. Now this paint does stay open a little bit longer than other acrylic paint. It's Atelier interactive paint. So I have a little bit of time for blending. Some acrylics, they dry so fast you don't get a chance. And I haven't tried too many types of acrylic paint, but I like these. So I'm adding a bit more colour in here, a bit more of this purpley colour, which is just a mixture of the red and blue. I got a bit of water there just to blend that. Grabbing a bit of burnt sienna. Burnt sienna, from the start of painting until now, still one of my favourite paints. It's such a good colour because I've used it in landscapes and portraits as well. It's a great colour. It's quite warm as well. I tend to think of burnt sienna as an orange, because that's what it is really, isn't it? Sort of an earthly orange. Quick spray then. Did you hear that? I was just spraying gel on my hair. No, not really. I was just spraying a little bit of water on the plate. So I'm just darkening things, seeing if it looks better with a little bit more darkness into the sky. I'm kind of playing a little bit. The other good thing about acrylics is because it does dry fairly quick, especially on card, it dries a bit quicker than on canvas, I would say. Grab some white and you can go over it. So if it's a bit too dark, you can do that. And then working on these clouds, a bit of grey. If you wanted to, you could have some grey card and then just paint the blues in and leave the grey card as the clouds. Or you can use different coloured card. I'm going to get some different coloured card and show you a few other effects that you can do. I think you'll find interesting. I always forget to show you the plate. So I get some yellow ochre and some white. Yellow ochre, another favourite of mine. Such a great paint. You can use it in so much yellow ochre. Yellow ochre and a little bit of red. You get a nice flesh tone. It works great in landscapes to unify things and all that earthliness, because it is, you know, yellow ochre pigment. It's earth, stone. So I'm just using little strokes. I keep looking back and looking forward, looking back. Always remember to sit back and have a look at your painting. And then you can make your decisions, change things the way you want it to be. You can make this sky as simple and clean as you want, or give it a lot of action like I've done. I've really gone for it. I do like these skies where there's a lot going on though. I'm always watching the sky. So I'm just highlighting there at the bottom of the clouds, trying to make a separation between the cloud and the blue, and then putting in all these little details, little changes of light. I was told once that that a lot of beginners, and I always think of myself as a beginner. When I say beginners, I consider myself to be one. They said to me, "Oh, a lot of beginners, we tend to do too much with our sky, and we can spend hours and hours on it. And then when you put a mountain in front of the sky goes back, and it becomes less of a focal point, and all that work that you've put into your sky sometimes is a waste of time." And I thought to myself, that doesn't sound right. So I just kind of carried on painting away, spent ages on this sky, and really got a nice looking sky. And then I put a mountain in and covered up half the sky that I did. And then I put some trees in and that covered up more. And I thought to myself, hey, he's right. I didn't need to spend hours on my sky. I could have done it in 10-20 minutes because it's background material. But I suppose it depends what you want to do, doesn't it? So a little bit of cadmium red, a little bit of ultramarine blue, making a purpley colour. I keep looking at the colour because I want it to be cool. Put a bit of white in there just to make it a bit more opaque. So it's still warm, but it's not too hot. The cadmium red is so strong that you do need to cool it down most of the time. That's why some people avoid cadmium red from their palette and use more of a like an alizarin crimson, a permanent alizarin crimson or something. For me, I use whatever I've got. I'm not bothered. So I grabbed a little bit of burnt umber and some red in there and blue. A bit more blue. So I'm thinking that's where the water is. Because there's a lake here. It's quite a big lake. And there's a bridge that goes across it as well, further down the lake. I did try and take a picture of the bridge, but it was just too dark. It looked awful. I need to go back there on a sunny day, maybe get a picture of the bridge. There was quite a cool looking building there as well, little shed. But it was a brick shed, so it looked quite good. Looked almost cottagey. I like old buildings. Mixing more colour. So actually that watercolour, that colour of the water that I've put down, you've got to think of it as reflecting what's above onto the water. a good idea to get yourself out there and have a look at what happens with reflections and things, because I was looking at this river and I was looking and I was like, well, I can't see that cloud. There was a cloud reflecting perfectly in the river. I was like, well, that cloud isn't there. And I looked up and there it was above me. Because it was a mirror reflection from above. You all probably knew that anyway, that happens. I go out into the world and it's like it's new every time. So I'm just putting in a bit of a light colour there to create distant hills or something. I just wanted something light there. I think I get rid of that. Watercolour practice, and I practiced painting some of Turner's paintings. Not sure if you've ever heard of Turner. He's one of my art heroes. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant painter, and I learned a lot from copying his painting and copying his techniques of painting as well. And it is starting to add into my own way of painting. I know I'm using acrylics, but I'm thinking about how I painted with watercolours and gouache doing Turner paintings. So I think it's a good idea to do master studies, and who better to paint master studies from than Turner? Probably. In fact, I would say he was the best watercolourist ever. I could say he was a supreme master. He was a master watercolourist and then went away. Years later, he's just phenomenal. After his grand tour. So I've created a greeny yellow there. I'm just putting that in as a base colour for underneath where the land is. So it's yellow ochre, sap green, bit of cad yellow and white. And I was just playing, so like I said, my photo wasn't brilliant. So I want my colours to be better than what my photo is. So I kind of play a little bit with the colours. I think when you do a few paintings outside, you just get better at colour. I found myself getting a lot better at using colour from observing nature and trying to connect to it. So I've got a bit of a dark colour there. So if you're having a go at painting this, feel free to change it to how you want it to be. These episodes are just, they're just ideas. It's just a bit of fun. It's always easier to see somebody doing something rather than just reading a book or something. So hopefully it'll give you some ideas, but don't feel like you have to copy it. It's just something for you to study. If you're a total beginner painter, you might enjoy this one, following along with me and copying it. You might do something that you've never dreamed you could do. I mean, I never thought I could paint something like this, I'll be honest with you. If you saw the paintings I was churning out at the beginning of my learning, you'd look shocked. I mean, my artwork was so bad. I'll give you this story. This is a true story. So I started to paint a lot, and as you paint a lot, you start to get commissions. And people start to, oh, he does paintings. Oh, can you paint this for me? Can you paint that for me? So someone said to me, oh, can you paint mountains? Can you do me some mountains? And I want you to do a little cabin, and I want you to put a little signpost, and you want you to say it's the name of the person that wanted the painting. I want you to put my name on like a little sign, and then I want these colours, I want this and that, and I want it on a big canvas, big chunky canvas. So I did everything they asked for, and then I presented it. Really happy with it, thanks very much. Gave me a few quid, happy days. And then a while later, I found out that it got put on the wall, pride of place in the living room, really happy with this picture. And now someone else comes in and he says, oh God, that's an awful painting, who's done that? And she says, oh, it was Jason. And she's like, well, that's a bit childlike, isn't it? And so, embarrassed by the painting that I did, she dropped it down the back of her settee. And eventually, I found that out. I'm not sure if it's still there. But, so there you go. One of my paintings has made it to the back of someone's settee. Hey, maybe it'll be there for hundreds of years, and the next people that move in, they leave it behind there, and the next people leave it behind there, and it stays there forever. And then someone pulls it out, and they go, oh, 100 years time, or 200 years, oh, Jason Bowen original. Oh, it's from his early days. Look at that. And then they take it to auction and it sells for millions. It's good to make up stuff like that, isn't it? Imagining your painting's worth millions. You never know though, do you? You never know. I know one of my other favourites, Vincent. You must know who Vincent is. And I'm sure he didn't think his paintings were worth millions and millions, especially when he was struggling to sell any. So I'm just putting a little bit of faded colour. You see that in the background. That's faded. Your eyes don't go to it. It's just background, because it's sort of a faded, muted, greyish, bluish colour. Now, here we go. A tree. Lots of brown and dark, and wiggle this tree out of the brush. This is a round brush. Well, sort of round. It's a cheapy brush, but it works. These are Daler-Rowney graduate brushes. They're cheap, but they work. And that's all that matters, doesn't it? If it works, I'm a happy chappy. So I'm just putting some branches in. If I press down hard, I get a thicker line. If I press down light, I get a light line. And I don't want to draw in millions and trillions of little branches, so I just scrub in some brown. It's my cheat method of doing millions and millions of branches. Just scrub a little bit of brown in, And if your brush is getting to that dry point, that's when you want to do it. You don't want the paint to be too wet when you do that. I put those branches in where they are in real life. I don't really like doing branches that are like that because it looks a bit pitchforky. But that's what they're like, so I did it. Some people, well, say some people, the art police, they're out there, they're coming to get you, they're going to come and attack your paintings. They can be really finicky about trees. And they're like, oh, your branches, they shouldn't be like that, they shouldn't be so straight, or oh, they shouldn't be so curved. That type of tree, the branches all go upwards, not downwards. It's like, just get over it. If you paint trees, if you go out there and paint enough trees, you'll realise that the branches go all over the place, and you can get some perfectly round. There's this tree on the way home from work when I'm driving back, and it's got a perfect curved branch. It's perfect, and it's huge. It's like there's a sort of a semicircle next to the trunk and the branch, and if I painted that, people would go, oh no, that's too semicircular. It's like, well, it's there, it's real. And you get branches that are perfectly straight. I think you get to a point where you think, I'll just do whatever I want. So I warmed the paint up a bit there with the burnt sienna, but then I thought, that's a bit too warm, so I cooled it back down. See how I cooled that down? Just threw the blue and brown back in. So if you didn't know, ultramarine blue and burnt umber makes black, and you could make different greys using them too. So if you add a bit of white in, you get a grey, and then you can either have a cool grey, more blue in than brown, or a warm grey, more brown in than blue. Have a go. Have a go at doing that. So I'm using my finger on just to rest, and then like I said, as the paint dries a little bit, you can dry brush in some millions and trillions of branches. You're just creating an effect, a feel of what it looks like. I wouldn't want to paint tons and tons of branches, not when I can just do that. But you might want to, so it's up to you. Some people like to paint hyper-realistic paintings, and I've done stuff like that as well. It takes a long time, and it's quite fun. But to be honest, I'm more of a painterly type painter, so I prefer this way. So every time you put a tree in, you've got to put a reflection in. So I put in the line, whoop, and then don't forget the reflection, whoop. So technically, my reflection should be slightly faded. And I have tried to cheat that by using the last part of the paint to put in the reflection, so it's a little bit faded. But what happens in water when when the tree reflects into the water, the darks, they fade, they become a bit lighter. And the lights become a little bit darker, I think. Yeah. remember now. Well, I know the darks fade. Don't quote me on the other one. I'll have to have a look. I can't quite remember. So I'm picking up more paint. Get the line in. Whoop. Got a bit thick there, I think. Whoop. And nice. The paint's starting to dry a bit, so I can just pull it. Get that dry brush effect going again. So the less paint you've got on your brush works well as well. You don't want a fully loaded brush when you do that. Just put in a few of the branches. A few branches. Although this painting looks quite warm, I'll be honest with you, it was freezing. It was cold. Icy cold. Not like today, it's quite warm today. We're hopefully getting some nice weather in the UK, in England. I've got some nice plants growing outside as well. So I'm thinking, once all they flower, I can do a painting outside, in the garden, just like Monet. I've tried growing some of the plants he grows as well. I thought it'd be a good idea. And also it'll get my landlord off my back, because they complain that the garden was full of weeds. And to be fair, it was. And I hadn't done that much gardening when they checked the property. So I was preparing myself, though. I did have some areas done, some areas needed a bit more. But now it's looking a lot better. It's coming together. Don't think I'll be able to make the Chelsea flower show though. Not quite that level. Just washing my brush. So I've got little bits of burnt sienna in there now, in the dark. It gets a bit boring if you just have dark. Like I said on a previous video, when you take pictures, you just get darkness, and it looks awful. So, and I'm guilty of painting photographs, and it just, looks like a photograph, and all the flaws that a photograph has. So I'm going for the water line there now. Got some blue. Imagining the water's moving a little bit, the wind's catching it a bit. Using the light colour to add a bit of activity. Try not to kill all your reflections though, keep some of it in. Just lightening the water, help us see it a bit. My brushes, again, it's quite dry, so the paint's coming off nicely. This has kind of a traditional painting look to it. It looks like something you would see by an artist painting outside. That's what I think anyway. Not sure what you think. Hopefully it does have that feeling for you as well, because that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to imagine myself sat there painting it rather than painting the photo. So I'm just getting that line in there. So I didn't do that much with this tree because there's a lot of bushes in front of it, a lot of big grassy bits. If you're enjoying these episodes, please give them a like and share them, because it helps me out a lot if you like the video and share the video, because I can get more views and that'll help me make more videos. Just grabbing some cadmium yellow and sap green, bit of burnt sienna. Going for the grass, bit of yellow ochre. I want to lighten that grass up a little bit. See, sometimes I just hold my brush on the painting and then I look at it and I think, that's not quite what I wanted. But if it is, then I just go for it like that. I just hold the brush onto the painting. So you're not committed that way if you do that. And then you can just go for it. If it's not the colour you're after, just change it. Don't be lazy. That's a thing I'm saying to myself, because sometimes I just can't be bothered to mix a colour that'll be closer, and I just go with what I got on the brush. So I have to tell myself, don't be lazy, mix the colour correctly. When the camera's on though, when the camera's on, I'm got my good behaviour hat on. I make sure I do the job that I think I should do. So I got the burnt sienna in with a dark mixture, and I'm putting in all these bushes and things that grow all the way around the outside of this. Just throwing that in there, blocking it in. Always blocking in like that. I always think like this now. When I'm painting, I think big shape. Put it in. Don't mess around. Just put in the shape. Don't worry about drawing it perfectly. Just go for it. Get the shape, and obviously I just thought I needed a bit of colour in that. Looked a little bit dead to me. Just a bit of burnt sienna in it. Yeah. So I just go for it. Obviously, if you was doing portraits or animals and stuff, then you can't just go for it and hope for the best, because you need to be more precise. But we'll have to do some animal paintings and people paint pets? No. Or maybe I could do some pet portraits. So I'm putting in some green. Yeah, if you're interested in other types of paintings and stuff that I've been posting on Instagram, check out my Instagram. I consider Instagram my sketchbook. So I just put everything on there. I just mess around on the computer or in my sketchbook. I post it on there. So put in that green, that sort of dull green, just as like a shadowy colour. So some burnt sienna look, yellow ochre. I'm glad I remembered to show the palette, well, plate. Burnt sienna, yellow ochre. Getting this shape. See how I'm moving the brush before I even put the stroke down? I've always done that when I've been drawing and painting. I always do that. I move it, get the movement going, and then do it. gets me into the feeling of the brushstroke before I put it down. People used to talk about it when I was at school, and I did a lot of drawing. People used to mention it. Unfortunately, I only got a grade D. D for rubbish. But like I said, you just get better. The more you do something, you get better. It doesn't matter if you're the worst painter in the world, like I was. You just get better as you keep going. And I'm still, I'm still learning. I'm still growing as an artist, and hopefully that'll keep continuing. Maybe one day I can call myself a supreme master. I did actually. The best compliment I ever got once was when someone looked at my painting and they looked at it and they was like, "God, that reminds me of a Monet." I was like, "Whoa." That's the best compliment I ever got. It's pretty good getting compared to Monet, isn't it? Obviously, they didn't have their glasses on, but hey, you got to take the compliments while you get them. There's always someone who's going to say how rubbish it is, so it's good to get the good compliments, isn't it? You have to remember as a artist never to take negative feedback personally. I know that's easy to say, but it's not personal. And if it is, well, I'm not interested in that. If you get a critique from somebody and they say, "Oh, I really like what you've done, but you could do this and it'll make it better," I listen to that. I don't listen to, "Oh, well, that's not your best work," that kind of critique. I don't listen to that. It's not helpful. Not helpful, is it? And I have been told that before. Okay, and we're just putting in some light. I went into a bit of a coughing fit, so I had to stop filming. Getting some of the yellow and some of the green. I'm just trying to create some shape there. I don't want to just block in the colour. Difference. Difference. Not a solid colour. Different. Nothing wrong with solid colours, don't get me wrong, because I've been studying painters, Disney animators and concept artists, and they use solid colour and it looks fantastic. But for me, for painting, for this way of painting, I want it to be different. Grabbing a bit more of the yellow. See, I'm at that point where I could lose the plot. I could start putting some really bright highlights in there and it could just go crazy. But I keep myself refraining from doing that and holding myself back a bit. Always thinking about not doing that, because it's so easy to do that. It's so easy to overdo something. And I find I get better feedback from people if I underdo it rather than overdo it. They say, oh, I really like that painterly style. And, oh, well, thank you very much. I will now finish all my paintings half an hour before I would normally finish them. So I'm sitting back, having a look, checking the whole painting. I feel like it needs some wildlife. And also, the light along there has kind of faded a bit. So I thought, oh, it'd be nice to have a bit of a line of movement back, because it just brings that out a bit. It's still not pure white. It does look a bit bright on camera, but it isn't pure white. It's got a little bit of blue in it. And then I sit back, wash the brush, think about the painting, and I thought, oh, how about a few swans or seagulls, whatever you like, whatever you think they are, that's what they are, just little birds in the background. And I went for white because they'd stand out there. And put as many in as you want, doesn't matter. You're the artist, it's your painting. So there we go, that's the finished painting. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you at another one. Cheers, bye.